Welcome to this second session on posets and lattices. Just to have a quick recap of what we discussed in the previous lecture, we talked about relations. We said that if a relation is defined to be as reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive, then that particular relation is said to be a partially ordered relation, and a set S along with a partially ordered relation, which is usually represented by this symbol, both these things together is called a partially ordered set or a poset. So in the previous lecture we have seen that the relation that is reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive is called a partially ordered relation, and the relation along with the set is called a partially ordered set. We also saw that if, let us say, there are two elements A and B belonging to the set S, and if we say A is partially related to B, it means that A is related to B, but it also encloses the possibility that A is equal to B. Why? Because it is a reflexive relation. So we can also have the possibility that A is related to A. So A and B can both point to the same elements. This is also said to be A precedes B, or we can say B succeeds A. There is another point. If we write A, we can write A strictly related to B. This is the possibility. This is the case when we say that A is related to B, but A cannot be equal to B. Here we say that A strictly precedes B, and or B strictly succeeds A. If I am writing A is related to B, not strictly but related to B, normally A is also called the ancestor of B, and B may also be called as the successor of A, right? Ancestor, successor. So let's now see how to represent this partially ordered set with the help of a special graphical way that is called a Hess diagram. Now, why do we need a Hess diagram to represent a partially ordered relation? We already have an excellent way of representing any relation, that is with the help of a digraph. Given any relation, I can represent that with the help of a digraph. But representing a relation with the help of a digraph gives us a lot of extraneous information which might not be required when we are talking about the partial ordering property of that particular relation. So given any partially ordered relation, I can draw the directed graph, and that directed graph is going to represent or is going to showcase all the properties, the reflexivity, the antisymmetricity and the transitivity. All three properties will be visible to you, all be obvious to you by looking at the directed graph. But in addition to that, there will be a lot of extraneous information. So what we do is we try to convert this digraph into a much simpler graph. Simpler graph in the sense a graph having a limited set of information that is given to the user, which is required to be able to analyze the partial ordering property of the relation. That is called a Hess diagram. We'll first see how to convert a digraph into a Hess diagram, and then we'll talk about how to draw a Hess diagram from scratch. Say suppose partial ordering is a binary relation. So obviously any partial order being a binary relation can be represented by a directed graph, also called a digraph. So when we want to convert a digraph, a relation digraph, into a Hess diagram. So first of all, what we do, many edges can be omitted. As I know, if it is a Hess diagram, that means it is going to represent a partially ordered relation. So the edges which are going to represent the reflexivity and transitivity, I can eliminate those edges which are actually representing the reflexivity and transitivity, because I know as it is representing a partially ordered relation, so obviously it is going to be reflexive, it is going to be transitive. So in the first set, what we do is we remove all the reflexivity indicating edges, then we remove all the transitivity indicating edges, and then we try to make it's a general convention, we make the hash diagram in a vertical manner. The edges point in a vertical manner. In other words, the edges are either pointing towards upside or downside. There are no horizontal edges. In a hash diagram, there are no horizontal edges. And then we can omit the directions on the edges. The physical location of the particular node will tell us whether it is preceding another node or it is succeeding another node. Let's understand it with the help of an example. So let's first list the 4 steps. Remove all the self loops. This is actually the edges that are showing me reflexivity. Remove all the edges that must be present due to transitivity. Arrange all edges to point upwards and do not show directions on the edges. See, this is a particular digraph. I have shown a digraph over here. If you want, I can say this is the set A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. This is the set, and the relation that is defined over here is, let us say I have A1 comma A1, all the edges are, all the nodes are having the self loop, so that means A1 is there, A2 comma A2 is there, A3 comma A3 is there, A4 comma A4 is there, A5 comma A5 is also there. Then I have A1 to A2, A1 A2 is there, A1 A3 is there, A1 A4 is there, and A1 A5 is there. Then I have A2 A4 and A3 A5. So this is the relation that is being represented by this digraph. I hope I have covered all the edges, but so this is the digraph. So first step is to remove all the self loops. So I have a self loop at A1, I have a self loop at A2, I have a self loop at A3, A4 and A5. In the first step, we remove all the self loops. Then we remove all the transitive loops. Now what do we mean by transitive loops? I have an edge from A1 to A2 and A2 to A4, and I have an edge from A1 to A4. So A1 to A2 and A2 to A4 transitivity gives me this edge A1 A4. So I'll remove this edge. Similarly, A1 A3 and A3 A5, and I also have A1 A5. So I'll remove this particular edge also. So these two edges were indicating transitivity. So I have eliminated these two edges, right? I get this. Now as the third step, what we do is we eliminate the arrows. See, this is the arrow shown over here, the arrow shown over here, arrow and arrow. So we remove all these arrows, and voila, we have got the hash diagram. See, the physical location of the elements is indicating which is preceding another element or which is succeeding another element. See, if you see this particular line A1, A2, this clearly tells me that A1 is preceding A2. So I'll write A1, A2. Similarly, A1 is preceding A4. A1 is preceding A4. Similarly, A1 is preceding A3. A1 is preceding A5. If I talk about strict relation, now please pay attention. If I talk about strict relation means if I say two elements A and B are strictly related to each other if there does not exist another element C such that A is related to C and C is related to B. There should not exist any element between them. So I can say that A1 and A2 are strictly related, they are related to each other, and A1 and A2 are strictly related to each other. Similarly, A1 and A3 are strictly related to each other. Similarly, A3 is strictly related to A5. A2 is strictly related to A4. I cannot say that A1 is strictly related to A4. Why? Because I have A2 in between. Please note this point. I cannot say that A1 is strictly related to A4 because I have an element A2 which is related to both A1 as well as A4. And also see, A2 is not related to A3. The relation does not exist. A2 and A3 are not related to each other. A1 is related to A2, A2 is related to A4, A1 is related to A4, A1 is related to A3, A1 is related to A5, A3 is related to A5. Wherever I have a line in the hash diagram, wherever I have an edge in the hash diagram, this is actually telling me that this line is there if and only if there is a strict relationship. These transitivity indicating lines, they were this A1 to A5. A1 is related to A5, but A1 was not strictly related to A5. Why? Because A3 was between them. So this transitivity line was actually that of a non-strict relation. So while making a hash diagram, we eliminate all the non-strict relation lines. So this is how you will convert a normal diagram and digraph into a hash diagram. Let's see another example. Consider the poset 1, 2, 3, 4 with the operation less than equal to. This is the digraph. 1 is less than equal to 1, 2 is less than equal to 2, 3 is less than equal to 3, 4 is less than equal to 4, 1 is less than equal to 2, 3 and 4, 2 is less than equal to 3 and 4, 3 is less than equal to 4. So first of all, what we'll do is we will eliminate all the self loops. I'll eliminate all the self loops. So if 1 is less than equal to 2 and 2 is less than equal to 4, so 1 is also less than equal to 4. So this is a non-strict relation. So I'll remove this line. 2 is less than equal to 3 and 3 is less than equal to 4. So 2 is less than equal to 4. This is a transitivity based non-strict relation. Similarly, 1 is related to 2 and 2 is related to 3. So 1 is also related to 3. This is once again a non-strict relation. So I'll eliminate this line. So eventually I'll be left with this. This is the hash diagram. Now if you see, this hash diagram is in the form of a straight line, or I can say this is in the form of a chain. If you remember, a chain was a totally ordered relation, which was a special case of a partially ordered relation. Let me give you a recap. A totally ordered relation is when I am defining a partially ordered relation S comma and the relation this, and if any two elements if I take from the relation, if those elements are comparable, that means if I take any two elements A and B, either A should be related to B or B should be related to A. So if this property exists between any two elements of the set, then it is called a totally ordered relation. See, you take 1, 2, 3, 4, you arbitrarily take any pair, 1 and 4 let us say. So 1 is less than equal to 4. If I take 3 and 2, 2 is less than equal to 3. If I take 2 and 4, 2 is less than equal to 4. So such a relation is called a totally ordered relation, and its hash diagram is in the form of a straight line, and it's called a chain. Another example can be, say for example, if I have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and let us say the operation is divisibility. Right? This again is an example of a totally ordered relation. I leave it up to you to draw first the digraph and then convert it into the hash diagram. But if you see, if you take any two elements, if I take any two elements, let us say 4 and 16, 4 divides 16. If I take 8 and 2, 2 divides 8. If you take any two elements, they will be related to each other by this relation. It's not necessary that you always start with a digraph and then you make the hash diagram. You can draw the hash diagram from scratch also. Let's see an example of how to draw the hash diagram without starting from the die graph. So let us say I have a set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, 60, and the operation and the relation is divisibility operation. This particular set is the D60 set. D60 means this is the set of the positive divisors of 60. In you'll very often find questions or very often find notations like this, D60. So D60 is the set of all the positive divisors of 60. So now I have to draw a hash diagram for this. So the hash diagram always begins from the bottom up. So we'll start with the smallest element, 1. So we'll start with the element 1. Right? We'll see now 1 is related to all the elements. 1 divides 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, 60. 1 divides everything. But are there certain elements to which 1 is strictly related to? So 1 is strictly related to 2. 1 is strictly related to 3. 1 is strictly related to 5. But I cannot say that 1 is strictly related to 4. Why? Because 1 is related to 2, which is related to 4. 1 divides 2 and 2 divides 4. This may look like less than symbol, but please understand this is actually representing a divides relation. So 1 divides 2 and 2 divides 4. So 1 does not strictly connect to 4. So in the hash diagram, there will not be a line between 1 and 4. There will be a line between 1 and 2, there will be a line between 1 and 3, there will be a line between 1 and 5, and then there will be a line between 2 and 4, there will be a line between 3 and 6, and so on. So whenever you have a strict relationship, there you will have a line in the hash diagram. So not necessary that you start from a digraph and then convert it into a hash diagram. You can start with the set and then draw a hash diagram from there also. So this is the hash diagram. We start with 1. So 1 is strictly connected to 2, 1 is strictly connected to 3, 1 is strictly connected to 5. 2 is strictly connected to 4. 2 is also strictly connected to 6. See, there is no element. Now, this is a point where I've seen many students getting confused. Now, 2 is strictly connected to 6. Now, you'll say that between 2 and 6, I have the element 4 also. And 2 is connected to 4. But 4 is not connected to 6. 4 does not divide 6. So, 2 is strictly connected to or strictly precedes 6. Please understand, A is strictly related to B if and only if there does not exist an element C such that A is related to C and C is related to B. If such an element does not exist, then the relationship between A and B is a strict one. Then you will have a line in the hash diagram between A and B. So I have a line from 2 to 4, 6 and 10. I have lines from 3 to 6 and 15. I have lines from 5 to 15 and 10. I have lines from 6 to 12 and 30. Why? Because the factors of 30 are 6 and 5. Factors of 12 are 6 and 4. See, the factor of 12 is also 2, but 2 also divides 4. So I will not have a line between 12 and 2, I will have a line from 12 to 4. Right? I hope it's clear. When you will practice a lot, it will become more clearer. So let's take another example. Construct the hash diagram of power set of ABC and the subset operation. So first of all, what are the elements of PABC? Phi, A, B, C, AB, AC, BC and ABC. Obviously, we'll begin with the smallest element. We'll begin at the bottom, that is the element phi. Because phi is preceding all the other elements. Phi is a subset of all the other sets. Just as in this case, 1 divides all the other numbers. So, we'll start at 1. And 60 is divisible by all other elements. So, 60 will be at the top. This is the digraph. This digraph, and this is also, sorry, this is not diagram, this is the hash diagram. So phi is connected to A, strictly related to A, strictly related to B, strictly related to C. A and B are strictly related to A comma B. A and C are strictly related to AC. B and C are strictly related to BC, and AB, AC and BC are subsets of A, B and C. So I cannot have a line from A to ABC. Why? Because I have an element AB. A is a subset of AB and AB is a subset of ABC. Right? I hope it is clear by now. Let's see some properties of hash diagram. Two of the very basic properties of a hash diagram are maximal and minimal elements. Right? Let's understand what are these. So an element A in the poset is called a maximal element if it is not less than any other element in S. In other words, an element A is called a maximal element if there is no element that is succeeding this element. So if you see in this particular poset, the element 8, it does not have any successor, it only has predecessors. 4 precedes 8, 2 precedes 8, 1 precedes 8. If you talk about 12 and 8 are not actually related to each other. So 8 is an element that does not have any successor. In other words, there is no line going upwards from 8. So 8 is a maximal element. Similarly, 12 is also a maximal element. There are no lines going from 12 to in the upward direction. So there are no elements. This is actually, in fact, 1, 2, 3, right. So there are no lines actually which are going in the upward direction from 12. So 8 and 12 are the maximal elements. Similarly, I can define a minimal element. A minimal element is one which is not succeeded by any other element. Let me repeat once again. A maximal element is an element which is not preceded by any other element. Right? You may have one or more maximal elements. You may have one or more maximal elements. Similarly, I can define the minimal element also. A minimal element is an element that is not succeeded by any other element, is called a minimal element. In other words, there should not be any line going downwards from this element. So in this particular diagram, 1 is our minimal element. So once again, you can have one or more minimal elements also. So maximal elements and minimal elements, you may have one or more maximal or one or more minimal elements. Let's see some examples. Say in this particular case, this is the minimal element, this is the maximal element. Similarly here, this is the minimal element, this is the maximal element. This is the maximal element, and in this case, this and this, all three will be minimal elements. Similarly here, this is the maximal element, this is the minimal element. Maximal element, minimal element. Minimal element. Once again here, I'll have multiple maximal elements, right? Both of these are maximal elements. Maximal element, minimal element. Now what about this? Now this is a strange case. This is open from here. Now, how do I identify a maximal and a minimal element over here? So, identifying a maximal and a minimal element is not difficult. So, this A6, if I see, there is no element which is succeeding A6. If you say A4, A4 is being succeeded by A6, right? So, this is a maximal element. What about A2? There is no element that is succeeding A2. So, A2 is also a maximal element. Similarly, A1 is a minimal element because there is no element that is preceding A1. Similarly, there is no element that is preceding A4 also. You can say that A4 is above A3 or A4 is above A2 or A4 is above A1, but there are no direct lines going down from A4. So, A4 is also a minimal element. Right? Now, another property is greatest element and least element. The greatest element of a poset is the one that succeeds all other elements. That succeeds all other elements. And the least element is one that precedes all other elements. So, if you take any element of the set, if a particular element is there which succeeds all other elements, then it is called the greatest element, or if this element precedes all other elements, it is called the least element, right? Let's take a simple example. If this is the hash diagram, you can see I have an element 1 over here which is preceding all the other elements. See, 1 is related to 2, 1 is related to 3, 1 is related to 6. Why? How? 1 is related to 2 which is related to 6. 1 is related to 3 which is related to 9, and so on. So, 1 is the predecessor of all the other elements. In fact, 1 is also related to 1 itself. If I take a particular element, 1 precedes 1 and 1 succeeds 1, as it is a reflexive relation. So, I have the element 1 which is preceding all other elements, and similarly I have the element 72 that is succeeding all other elements. So, 1 becomes the greatest element, 1 becomes the least element, and 72 becomes the greatest element. Now, it is not necessary that you will get a greatest and a least element. Greatest and least element are optional in nature. There might be cases that you do not get a greatest element or you do not get a least element. Let's say a simple example. Let's see this case. Here I can very well see that I have this element W that is the greatest element. But what about the least element? Now, if I say M is the least element, but M does not precede E. If I say E is the least element, E does not precede M or E does not precede D. So, in this particular case, I have a greatest element, but I do not have a least element. A simple thumb rule is, if you have multiple minimal elements, you will not have a least element. Similarly, let's see this case. Here, I can very well see that I have a least element, but out of these two, I cannot say which one is the greatest element. Why? Because I have a multiple maximal element. So, again the thumb rule becomes, if you have multiple maximal elements, you do not have a greatest element. One will be the least element, but I don't have a greatest element over here. So, the point to take away from here is, every poset will definitely have maximal and minimal elements, but it is not necessary that it will have greatest and the least element. Greatest and least element will only exist. Greatest element and least element will only exist if and only if number of maximal element is equal to 1 and number of minimal is 1. In this case, the element that is the maximal element is also the greatest element, the element that is minimal element is also the least element. Let's see some more examples. Here you can clearly see this is the greatest element, least element, right? The greatest element, least element, greatest element, least element. I specifically left this out. Now let us see this over here. I can very well see that I have a greatest element. Now what about the least element? Now see, there are two elements, although it might not look like that, but there are two elements which are the contenders for minimal element. You can see this element, this is not succeeding any element. Similarly, I have this element, this is not succeeding any element. Both these elements are not succeeding any elements, so both of these are minimal elements. So if there are two minimal elements, there are no least elements. Similarly here, this is the greatest element and I do not have a least element over here. Why? Because there are two minimal elements, the greatest element and the least element. Greatest element and the least element, greatest element and the least element. Sorry for the repetition in the diagrams. Sorry, least element, greatest element, least, greatest, least, greatest, least, greatest, least and greatest element. So I hope this concept is now clear to you. I suggest you find out examples of hash diagrams and try to identify the maximal, minimal, greatest and least elements out of them. To sum up, a hash diagram is a representation of the partially ordered set, right? And the properties of the hash diagram that we have talked about today are, we can identify a maximal element, which is the element which is not succeeded by any other element. Similarly, I can define a minimal element as the element which is not preceded by any other element. We have identified the greatest element, the element that succeeds all other elements. Similarly, we have identified the least element as element that precedes all other elements. In the next lecture, we will look up how to identify bounds if we are given a hash diagram and a subset. Till then, thank you.